And trend number 5 sort of gets into a little bit more tactical area as well. There's a really interesting area that has been sort of a dictum of mobile for a while now, which said that effectively no one reads on mobile. And we assumed that actually for a really long time, people read less than a minute, people are on the go. But talking to what Kai spoke about earlier around the mobile landscape, 68% of mobile device usage is at home. And that actually goes up that much more when you're talking about tablets specifically. So people are having these lean-back experiences. How many of you on the phone, have sat there with a tablet in bed or something like that, watching a movie, doing your emails? People will stay on mobile websites, and they're actually beginning to read. There was a really interesting case study that happened around BuzzFeed, which I'm sure many of you have been on. BuzzFeed did a 6,000-word article. This is by no means a short piece of journalism. It takes about 20 minutes to read. What was really interesting, though, is that when you looked at the stats, 47% of the traffic to this article that BuzzFeed did came from mobile. And even more amazing, of those mobile users who came, the average time on site was around 20 minutes. So it kind of breaks down everything that we knew about mobile a little bit. But the critical thing here was, why did people stay? First is that it was literary. And this goes to one of the key challenges that we find in sort of the mobile experience, is that if it's engaging, people will read it. But you've got to make sure it's engaging for your users and not for you. There's a lot of websites that have a huge amount of content out there, none of which is actually particularly interesting to read, because what they've done is taken a print experience and just transplanted it to the web. So what's really critical is thinking about the device that people are going to be reading on, what do they want to be able to get up front, and sort of how can they begin to explore that material. And when they begin to explore that material, is it interesting? Is it well written? Does it actually tell a story that's going to hook them and pull them in? Additionally, expectations simply changed. The way that we use mobile, I bet almost all of you right now have your mobile device sitting right next to your laptop computer. In fact, all of us in the room do. And the reality is our expectations changed. We're finding that more and more people are using 2 and 3 screens at the same time. I know I speak for myself when I say that I've definitely been in a situation where I had my laptop open in my lap, I had a mobile phone in one hand and a tablet in the other. And what we're finding through Google Stats is this is actually not uncommon. In fact, anywhere between 80 and 90% of mobile users have actually done that sort of second screen experience. So how do you make this work, right? Let's say I've got this great content. How do I actually make it work? Because I've got, it's really long. Are people going to want to read it? First thing you can do is make sure that they can save it for later. There are a lot of different ways to do this. Facebook has actually just rolled out functionality that enables you to sort of save posts to read later, because the reality is, although there are a lot of in-home experiences with mobile, still people do use this on the go, and not everybody always has that chance to read it right then and there. So making sure you have save for later. You can, a great way to do this is with an app like Pocket or Instapaper, which if you haven't used are worth checking out, which allow you to sort of, at a single click, save great articles into a sort of a bucket to look at later. The other thing is set expectations. If you're going to do long-form content, make sure you set it up well. Don't sit there and just be the first thing that your user hits, because they will leave your site. If you notice what BuzzFeed does, and actually sites like Medium do, they usually do a really big graphic up ahead. They tell you the headline. They might even tell you, in fact, how many words it's going to be or how many minutes it's going to take you to read. This is really, really important if you're doing long-form content. In fact, sort of any content beyond about 200 words, because it helps your user know how much time they're going to need to invest. And in fact, users will invest that time so long as you've set that expectation well. If you want to know a really simple trick, which is pretty interesting, take all your content and divide by 250, and that will give you the number of minutes it will take to read. Your average user reads anywhere from sort of 200 to 250 words a minute. So that's kind of a nice little tip, and might even be something that you can do on your site right now to think about how long your users stay in there potentially. And then the final thing to make it work, and this sort of applies generally to mobile, is you have to think cross-platform, you have to think cross-channel. The reality of the situation is there is no more just mobile strategy, there is no more just social strategy, there is no more desktop strategy, in fact. It's that this all has to support cross-platform and cross-device. It goes to what we had talked before about things being responsive. To Kai's point of if it's not mobile, it doesn't work. It goes to what the Sony app did, and it's really critical that you think about the digital ecosystem in which your content exists, rather than simply thinking about a particular channel or a particular device.